Less than 10 days till college football is back, and the Rombough Show is here to cover all of it. Now, the storylines heading into this season, it's basically Arch Manning, Heisman front runner. I know he took a lot of slack last season for the way he started, but he finished the season very strong. Texas has been on the cusp of being right there, and Indiana, of course, coming back, Signetti and the crew. There's so many storylines, and we'll get straight into it. I'm joined once again by my dad, and we're going to go over all the conferences and give some predictions and projections. And I think we might as well start with the championship game runner-up, the Miami Hurricanes and the ACC. Clemson they were big favorites last year and had a kind of a weird way to end the season in Miami, retooling with another transfer portal quarterback and Darian Mensah. ACC, how's it looking?
Well, Justin, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. We've been looking forward to this all year and that. As far as the ACC, I'm going to go with Miami first. I will do this top seven. And Louisville, really strong team. Predict them second. And then, of course, SMU look really strong too. Got them third. And I think James Franklin's going to put Virginia Tech at fourth there. He'll build them up and get them there fourth. And Dabo Sweeney, Clemson fifth. I think he can build up a little bit because he had an off year, but I think he'll pull up, give it to fifth, and Georgia Tech will be sixth, and Pitt seventh. Those are my top seven for the ACC.
Yeah, it'll be interesting this year with all the first year head coaches and how they do. The main one being Lane Kiffin moving to LSU. He's going to have a lot of pressure on him this year to produce. He's been a really good coach in the ranks, was able to build up Ole Miss into a really good program that was able to make the college football playoff. But for LSU, he has all this talent. And are we going to be able to see him put it all together, put all the pieces together? And then some, other first year coaches. You mentioned James Franklin. I think Bob Chesney, UCLA. We could see UCLA start to come back up rather sooner rather than later. Some other first year head coaches we got. How is Pete Golding going to do with Ole Miss as he steps in as the full-time coach? And what are some other first year head coaches that should be on the radar?
Well, they had like 30 a whole like 32 coaches we had that were new this year, which is like one of the largest ever. Of course, there's so much pressure to win, Justin. And of course, Lane Kiffin, we mentioned them, and Golding, you mentioned, and of course, Chesney at UCLA, they're projecting them about 14th in the Big Ten. I'd say give him another year, but he's out of what James Madison and that, and he'll build them up. So, but give him time. And then, of course, well, Matt Campbell at Penn State, he's going to do real well there at Penn State. He'll get them going quick. He got a lot of his players from Iowa State and that. And of course, Kyle Whittingham at Michigan is another one. He should do really good. And sometimes they'll right in first year, bang, they'll do real good. Sometimes it again takes a year for these guys and that. Some other ones, of course, is that Tosh Lupoy, I guess, from Oregon, there at going to Berkeley there and Cal. They've had some pretty good teams at Cal and that. They're probably going to be in the middle of the pack of the ACC and that. And that I just picked them outside that list. I had them about eighth or so. And of course, Eric Morrison, Oklahoma State's another one. He's going to build them up there. North Texas, you brought a lot of players. I think he'll be right outside. I'm the seven I picked up, I'm right outside there at about eighth or ninth. They'll probably go to a bowl. And then, of course, Morgan Scalley there at Utah. He's really taken over. He was in DC. Now, his run defenses weren't very good at Utah, but hopefully they'll shore that up for them because they were last in the Pac-10 in the Big 12 in rushing D. So they may beef it up a bit. So, and then Ryan Silverfield out of Arkansas is a big deal because Arkansas hasn't been doing well lately. They're predicted to finish last. So that'll be a struggle. And then Jim Mora, he's been at UConn and UCLA. Remember him? He's at Colorado State and that. So there's a bunch of them, Justin, in that. And as far as your first year people, they had, oh gosh, how many they have here? 33 new coaches. So you get the idea. There's so many of them. And again, hopefully they have lower turnover next year because there's just so much pressure. to win.
Yeah, it's fascinating seeing. I mean, college football is all about trends, and it's been really fascinating to see these programs that are just basically it's just a mass exodus from, North Texas. Now they're all Cowboys. And we saw a lot of Ole Miss players go to LSU, and I mean, we saw some Arizona players go to Washington with Jed Fish, but we've just seen this new trend in college football. It's that along with the NIL, along with the transfer portal, and it's just becoming its own whole new different sport than how it was 15, 20 years ago when we had the BCS, and it's absolutely crazy, but it's a new landscape, and the coaches and the programs that are able to adapt to this landscape are the ones that are going to be able to succeed. And we've seen it where Indiana, a program that no one would have ever thought would have been able to even sniff the top of the Big Ten, was able in 2 years because of Signetti, because of a lot of recruiting and building that culture, was able to take it all the way to the top. And it'll be quite interesting to see if they can do it again with Josh Hoover out of TCU. They were able to get him. I know he's going to have a great defense behind him and a great running game. And Signetti's just one of the big winners of last season. And it'll be fascinating to see what happens with the rest of this season. Let's move on to the Big 12, the conference that I think is super wide open. We saw the conference frontrunner Texas Tech go through with some off-season issues with their quarterback Brendan Sorsby transferring in from Cincinnati, and then had some gambling problems while he was a quarterback in Indiana. So he's not on the team anymore, and obviously Kalani Sitake is another huge, great coach in the conference for BYU. So I think those are the top two teams, and then after that, it's really just a wide open race. And I think the Big 12 is really wide open anyways, and it really just depends on the scheduling, like most of these conferences. Are you going to get those best teams, on the road, or are you going to miss them? So it really just depends on the scheduling.
Okay, on my list of projections on Big 12, I do the top seven, but I even have their overall record predictions. I got a pretty unusual one here. It'll throw people off. But I got Tech going 12-0, and I got BYU going 12-0. They don't play each other. So that's how we can slip in and get a second team in, because if they both run the table, there's no way they would leave them out. So I got them both going 12-0. Houston only has to play. Um, well, they got to play. They don't have to play BYU, but they do have Texas Tech on the schedule. They play them in Lubbock, so I think they can go 11-1 since they miss them and that. So, and we don't play them either. So there you go. And then I got Utah 10-2. They're going to have to play the big dogs there, and then probably they got to play BYU. Of course, they always play them anyway, but they did get Texas Tech off, so they another loss. Maybe we can beat them. So that's a possibility. But I think they can go 10-2. And K State, I got them going 10-2. And the reason why I got them so good is they do not play Utah, BYU, or Texas Tech. So we will beat them, but we're only going to go 9-3. I think we'll lose to Tech and BYU and one other one. So that's why I got K-State so high, as they get all the big dogs off. And then TCU, I got them seventh going 8-4. So that's my top seven.
Yeah, I think as we saw a couple years ago when we were in Provo, BYU is a hell of a place to play, and they absolutely bring it. And I mean, their winning percentage, I think they've only lost at home a handful of times since Sataki's been there as coach. So they're always really good at home. I think the Oklahoma State experiment is fascinating with all those transfers, Mestamaker, Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young, all those guys. That's going to be fascinating how they do it. The Big 12 is just it's just one of the most entertaining conferences because all the teams are good and you never really know what to expect other than the Sorsby incident. There's not really a whole lot of drama. It's just consistent good football, great defenses, great environments. And I think as the league progresses, there will be some great rivalries that come out of it. I think Texas Tech and BYU, I think they have that fuel in the fire because BYU's only two losses were to Tech last year. And obviously you have some of those, Arizona State. type rivalries. But I think it's just a fun conference overall, and it's going to be fascinating to see, how Fafita does in his final season. He did get engaged recently, so shout out to Fafita and his fiance. It's been quite a ride, and I can't believe we still have him at quarterback. I'd say he's my favorite quarterback in the whole history of Arizona. And the good times, the bad times, staying after that 4-8 season just shows he's the most loyal player in college football. And if somehow, some way, he lights it up and is even just a Heisman finalist, that would be unbelievable. But even if he just wins, all Big 12 first team, that would be incredible too. So I think 9-3 is a good prediction. Not trying to get my hopes up. Hopefully we can fill those secondary holes that were left with the guys entering the NFL draft. Hope they have the best success. We'll have to see what happens, but if he can just light it up and we have one of those magical runs again, that would be awesome. I mean, two out of his 3 seasons as starting quarterback has been highly, highly exceeding expectations. So going into the season, we're still kind of under the radar, so maybe we can spark some of that magic that we've had the past couple seasons.
Oh yeah, because they like Danny G, our defensive coordinator, always looks forward to bulletin board material and people predicting us low in that, and we had been predicted as low as 4-8 and 5-7. So that's plenty of bulletin board material for Danny and them to get all juiced up. So they'll be ready to go, and I think he'll have those secondary guys going because the way he operates, he'll get them going. They aren't household names now, but they will be at the end of the year.
Now, looking at the conference that has really dominated college football in the past recent years, the Big Ten, three straight national title winners in Michigan, Ohio State, and Indiana. There's a team missing from that list that I think very well could win it this year. Oregon. The Oregon Ducks are the most talented team in the country. Dan Lanning is one of the best coaches, but he just hasn't quite reached that level. Oregon, as we knew it when they were in the Pac-12 days, they've been one of the best programs. They just haven't gotten over the hump, and I think this is the season to do it. Dante Moore came back. He would have been the number one, number two overall pick. They've reloaded a lot of players that would have been in the draft. With NIL, you're able to do that now. So I think this is their year to do it. And I think Dan Lanning has the most pressure on him to finally get over that hump and of the coaches with the most pressure.
Oh yes, Justin. Yeah, in my prediction there, Oregon. Yeah, I predicted them to first in the Big Ten. There, they're pretty much unanimous pick for first or second. I mean, they do have all the talent. Lanning is an excellent coach in that, and of course, right there, Ohio State. Pretty much everybody's got them up top two in that. And again, Indiana still flying in under the radar screen, despite the fact that Signetti is such a good coach. Pretty much predicted to go third. And the team that is really coming up and is really getting a lot of pub this time is USC. Put them in a fourth. Another good one. And Penn State. Matt Campbell's going to have them going, have them fifth. And Michigan sixth. Have got, and then Kirk Ferentz there, the longest tenured coach, got him at seventh. So it's stacked up pretty deep there. There's a lot of others right behind him too, but that's what I've got. From the Big Ten. But I think that Oregon and Ohio State will play for the title. But Indiana, they're gonna go anyway to the playoffs. It's gonna be close.
I think Lincoln Riley really needs to make the playoff because USC, they're not going to wait around forever. I mean, it's a storied program. Lincoln Riley came in. He had, has been a, quarterback whisperer, has had great quarterbacks, but they haven't really put it together. And now the defense, the pressure was always, oh, they always had bad defenses, but now you got to put it together. You've had the, top 10 recruiting classes the last couple seasons. Now put it together and you got to make the playoff or I don't know, he might be gone. He could be one of those coaches that could be gone if they're not doing well. So we've always see it every year. There's always a couple coaches that are out before Halloween. So that's one of those situations to keep your eye on. And Penn State, I hope Matt Campbell succeeds. I think they got their guy. Rocco Becht is the Noah Fafita of the Big Ten. He was at Iowa State forever. I think he has over 50 career starts. It'll be fun to see him with the Nittany Lions. And then the Big 12, like we talked about some programs that to keep an eye on. Nebraska. how long is Matt Rule going to be able to be a 500 coach? He had that success at Baylor, but he's hasn't really shown it at Nebraska. They lost their quarterback to Oregon. The Rayola era is finally over, and it's just, Iowa football is always gonna, be in those, 13-10 games where the defense is mucking it up, and it's just fun to see. Ferentz is always at the near top of the Big Ten, and then Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith. I mean, he's been in college football. This is his third season. He's always been the best player in the country, one of the best receivers. How does Julian Sayin look? It's just a fascinating conference, and if Oregon does what we think they'll do, it'll be 4 straight years for the Big Ten winning it all. And I think that leads us straight into the SEC. What's the SEC going to look like? Arch Manning in Texas, they're up there. Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. DeBoer's able to win, but he's not quite able to have the success that Saban has had. How is his season going to look? Georgia, they have kind of slipped a little bit from those consecutive titles. Ole Miss, how are they going to look? What's kind of your overview look of the SEC?
Well, on the SEC, I did those projections too, Justin. I got Texas actually winning it this time. Okay, but Georgia got them second. Again, they're both going to go to the playoffs really strong in that. Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambliss. He's a really good quarterback coming back. I got them third. And I do have Alabama fourth in that. But again, their standards are so high, you have to make the playoffs pretty much, or you're in trouble. And then, of course, you look at the temperature check with all these coaches, and DeBoer is pretty much in high temperature every year, so he can in trouble. So, because trying to follow Nick Saban is almost impossible. Oklahoma, I got them fifth. A&M, pretty good team, sixth, and LSU, new coach Lane Kiffin, seventh. I got them at seventh in the
You have Ole Miss,
SEC.
you have Ole Miss 4 spots ahead of LSU.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Some most
LSU
people
is
are
not
putting
going to be as
LSU a
good as
little
people.
higher. But I think what they're going to have to adapt because it's a new coach and that, and that's why I'm putting them low. But it's so close in the SEC, Justin. I know it's a little low, but I'm just putting them because Oklahoma and A&M are good too.
LSU. I think
Hmm.
it's going to take a little bit of adapting. I know we've
Hmm.
because the Indiana project was 2 years, but Signetti, the way he was able to put it all together. But I think it's going to be a litmus test for, are you able to just put together a team in 1 year? Are you going to be able to just buy these players, have them come over and put together a team? Because Indiana was a team that it took years and they built it all up. Ohio State the same way. They had a bunch of players stay. Michigan had a bunch of players stay. They had that great offensive line, the great running game. So Kiffin has his own style and his own way of doing it, and we'll see if it translates. But I think it's really just a race of Oregon and Texas. I really do. They both are hungry. They've been right at the doorstep each year, and it really just depends on who's able to stay healthy and who's able to survive their schedule without any bumps in the road. Those are my top two teams in the
Hmm.
country. And looking at, teams that could be flying under the radar, I mean, How is uh how is Vanderbilt going to look without their guy Pavia? That's another
Hmm.
fascinating team, and it's always just so interesting to see what's the player that's going to come out of nowhere. Nobody really was talking about Mendoza. Do you have any players, any under the radar players, or any under the radar teams that you're looking at that could squeak in for their first playoff?
Well, yes, that's New Mexico. The G6 one. I got all 12 playoff ones. We could do those, but I picked New Mexico. Everybody else went Boise State. And New Mexico was to actually try champs, but they got aced out on a tiebreaker and couldn't play for the title. So everybody kind of ignores them. And I said, wait a minute, they're pretty good. So I'm picking them to be that surprise team to make the playoffs. And that because, Boise and San Diego State there in the pack. And then the Mountain West, everybody's talking about UNLV and missing New Mexico. They're going to play each other for the title, and I think New Mexico will squeeze in. So that's the one team I think that would do it. And as far as these bottom teams, I do like the bottom teams, and UTEP. Scotty Walden out there, Mr. Enthusiasm. He built up Austin P, and he's got this best team he's had in UTEP in 3 years. And I think they can make a move. I don't know if they'll go all the way to the top and battle New Mexico for it all, but they'll move up. That's that Cinderella team, I think, that'll pull up like Kennesaw State did last year. So, Scotty Walden, you got to check a video of this guy. He's Mr. Enthusiasm. So, those are the two. Of course, I'm a little partial getting neighbor schools or old whack buddies, but watch out for those two.
Now, a lot of people are talking about this team and just the way the situation ended last season. It was really disappointing, but I think we have to talk about it. The team that lost 2 games to start the year and then won 10 straight, but missed the playoff because they had lost to the eventual college football runner-up Miami. And we're talking about Notre Dame. They have who a lot of people are saying is the best quarterback heading into the season, CJ Carr. You know, his grandpa played at Notre Dame and he has that family legacy. And their schedule, I mean, if you look at the Notre Dame schedule, is real cupcake city. They really only have a test of BYU, and I feel like that's pretty much it. Um, it's at BYU, which we've seen is a big environment. They are playing at Lambeau Field in week 1, which will be really exciting. And then they play at home against Miami, November 7th. Those are the really only 2 challenges for Notre Dame. And I think this is just a situation where, yeah, they made the college football championship a couple seasons ago, but this is the clearest path that they'll have to a national championship. They have that quarterback. They have to replace the 2 running backs that were drafted, Jeremiah Love now at the Cardinals and Jadarian Price at the Seahawks. But I mean, I don't know. I just hated the way it ended. You know, why would they turn down a bowl game after going 10-2? We're always happy to get a bowl, even when we go 6-6. So we'll have to see. What do you think will happen with the Fighting Irish?
Well, it cost them $4 million, so they shouldn't have gotten so upset. You know, a trip to Orlando is a trip to Orlando, and they should have played in that. It's extremely rare. I had to Google it up. When was the last time that happened? I don't think it's ever happened. In that, um, they do have to play SMU there on November 21st, could be the other challenge. Now, the thing is, Justin, when we do predictions, I'm actually predicting BYU to go undefeated. If they do lose to Notre Dame and lose, say, to Texas Tech in the playoffs, they may get aced out again. And I'm predicting Notre Dame to make the playoffs. They'll go. And that because it's top 12. So if they're 12th and the 11th or 10th will get bumped, one of them will get bumped and Notre Dame gets in. So you're right. If the only loss would possibly be BYU, Miami, and SMU. If they drop all three, they're out. But if they win two of them, they're in. So um and that and then Duke Navy, they too play in Foxborough this year. So um I think they'll make the playoffs, but hopefully BYU can go too. We at least get two teams in. But Notre Dame, I'm predicting is one of the 12 teams. Even though it did lose a lot of players, they're still loaded up with players and they got. So yeah.
All right, let's go through our 12 teams. So we got Notre. We both have Notre Dame.
Mhm.
Do we both have Oregon?
Yep, I got them in order, but I do have Oregon first.
We'll go in order then. Give us your order.
I got Oregon first. I got Ohio State second, Notre Dame third, Texas fourth, Indiana fifth, Georgia sixth, Miami seventh, Texas Tech eighth, Ole Miss ninth, USC 10th. I got BYU 11th and New Mexico 12th.
Wow, wow. What a
Mhm.
list. That would
So
be quite a journey if we were able to have that.
it would, because 99% of the people are picking Boise State as the G6 guys.
Yeah, I would say Boise State. I mean, we can add New Mexico into that. I mean, any other could. I mean, that would be crazy if Navy was able to squeak in there. Um, yeah, New Mexico would be something else. I mean, James Madison, even if they were able to do it with a new coach, that would be quite something to get a MAC team in there with Western Michigan. Um,
Mhm.
I think New Mexico is a good pick. Um, yeah, top 12. I think you have to have Oregon in there.
Hmm.
You have to have Texas, Ohio
Hmm.
State, Notre Dame. I feel like something could be brewing in Louisville. I think
Yes.
Louisville could be they could be on
Hmm.
the rise. I think Jeff Brom's a great coach. And I mean Miami, I think they're just replacing too much. I mean Mesidor and Bain, they do have one of the most explosive players in Tony, but I like Louisville out of the ACC. That's my upset pick. The ACC is always just random every year. But I'll have to go with Louisville. Georgia, they do have Gunnar Stockton. He is a really good quarterback, so I think I'll have to put them in there. I mean, you really can't count out Kirby Smart. Indiana, you have to have Signetti in there. And then I might have to agree with you. I don't think LSU will make it.
Hmm.
I think it's just too soon. Old Miss, I don't have them making it either. I think it's going to be too much of an uphill battle with all the loss that they had. I think this is it for USC. They have to make it. It's playoff or bust for USC. They have
Hmm.
to make it in there. Alabama's going to be real close. It's going to be real close, but I think the quarterback situation makes me scared. I don't know.
Hmm.
They have minimal experience, which we had the same situation happen last year with Ty Simpson, and he was able to ball out. Um, Texas Tech and BYU. Tech has the talent, but BYU and Tataki is going to take the Big 12.
Oh, okay.
Only loss being Notre Dame, and then I think BYU can run the table RTT other than Notre Dame.
Okay. That's excellent. Yes.
Got BYU going in there. How many teams is that?
Well, you got Miami and Louisville. You got four from the Big Ten, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, and USC. You got Tech and BYU. And you got two from the SEC, Texas and Georgia, and then Notre Dame and the G6 team. That's your 12.
Yeah, I like that
That'd
12.
be insane if only two SEC teams got to go.
Yeah, that would be crazy. But between LSU, if I had to drop Miami, because I think maybe only one, I think it would only be Louisville. If I had to drop one of them, I mean, I don't know. Between LSU, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma, I think Money Mateer could be back. I'd have to take Oklahoma out of those three. I think Mateer's going to be ready to go. He's been looking in shape and ready to play. So I think Oklahoma will squeeze in there as the third SEC team. And then G5, I mean, I love the Broncos. I got to go with the Broncos and get them back in the playoff what they deserve.
Boise State, you mean, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because Western Michigan, I think it's the Broncos too, if I
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I
All
also
right.
think Washington and Jedfish is a team to look out for. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, I don't really see the Gators doing it. I think the quarterback situation there is a little iffy. And then Arizona, we're on the outside looking in, which is I think exactly where we should be. Because if we somehow, some way make the playoff, I mean Tucson will burn to the ground. So we'll see what happens if we can patch together our defense a little bit. That would be something else for Fafita to do in his finale. I think it's only
Mhm.
right if we have some magical 10-2 and squeeze right in. That'd be something else.
Yes, one thing I was thinking, Justin, if we just miss it and Houston just misses it, we may play each other in the Alamo Bowl because we don't play each other, and the Alamo Bowl may see that and says take them. So we may get a trip to San Antonio and play Houston because they are really good. So we would have our hands full like we did against OU, what, 3 years ago or so.
Yeah, Willie Fritz is a good coach for Houston.
Hmm.
He'll be fun.
Yeah. So that's another possibility. So, and then we got the others like the Holiday and Sun and all them. But the thing is, Justin, we're competing with all the new pack teams plus the old pack teams for all those bowls. And I don't know if there's enough to go around. So if you're kind of on the borderline of getting a bowl, you don't know where you're going. I don't think there's enough to cover all those teams. So
What are some other factoids you got?
as far as oh, and well, the 2014 playoff, I really think we should have that, Justin, because in the FCS they have 24, the D2 has 32, and D3 has 40. And I think the Big 12 has all these teams ranked just behind 12, except Tech, and we all just miss it. Like BYU should have gone, and so we would have gone BYU, Utah, um, and what ASU or so, we would have had 5 teams go. And so they really need to up it to 24, just like FCS, because 12 just isn't enough. And there's so much pressure on these coaches that if they don't make the playoffs, and then the players won't, they'll opt out. Because if we had gone to the playoffs last year, those players wouldn't have opted out. They would have played. And so, and here Notre Dame, look what they did. They just completely dropped out. The Bulls are very important, and we can't lose sight of that. But at least get 24 like the other leagues, because we've got 138 teams now, Justin. And back in my day, we only had like 105. So there's so many new teams now with the Sun Belt and Conference USA and all those teams. There are a lot of new teams in that. So 24, I think, would be the best.
And we saw it where it's the first year of the college football playoff, the 12 team, it was mostly chalk. And then last year we kind of saw a team come out of nowhere in Miami and was able to make it to the championship game. So I think it it's a shot. You have a shot at it if you're in the playoff. And I mean the ones most of the ones with the all the talent win. I mean, Indiana was just an absolute crazy situation that happened last year, but I think it'll be fun and it'll give teams a better chance if you have that 24 team, and even if you're able to have two of the group of five teams, or if you have more Big 12 teams or teams that like Notre Dame, they could have proven themselves if they were in that 24 team. Like last season,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
those two losses, I mean. It used to be in the 14 playoff where if you had two losses, you were done. But now it gives teams more opportunity because it's a lot of pressure on just having one loss ruin your whole season.
Right. And even BYU, 23-4 last 2 years, and they got stiffed twice. So that makes it kind of tough. And that's why I think they really need to have, because every year the BCS and the 14 and now the 12, every single year has been controversy. You look up and it's every year. So 24 would alleviate that because a 25th place team is not going to squawk. You missed it. It's too far down. But 12, there, look what happened to Notre Dame. They didn't even go to Orlando. So um, that's one of the big thing. I just hope they go with 24. And they don't need conference championship games because teams that would tie for the title get to have a title in their record. Like Iowa State would have won a Big 12 title if they didn't have OU a few years ago. And like Colorado and BYU and all them would have had a championship with ASU instead of two of them didn't get to play for it. So they'd all get a piece of the title and then they'd all probably make a bowl or playoffs or something.